Okay, so we're going to look at the beginnings of the social psychology, which is perception and attribution, and how that kind of plays into how we interact with each other and with people around us in the world at large. So first is perception. And perception is a psychological concept that looks at how individuals perceive and interact with other people. And for whatever reason, and various reasons, there's a lot of them, we tend to gravitate towards certain people and not others. And this is a concept we call interpersonal attraction. And what happens is when we positively evaluate a person, and generally this is a quick judgment, it happens very fast, we tend to gravitate towards them. Oftentimes this is based off the characteristics of the person, but it is also subject to the world around us, our social influences, our environment, expectations of our culture and our society. And so some of the things that lead to interpersonal attraction: positive evaluation, shared opinions, which is called the similarity effect. And that is when you have things in common, when you share similar opinions, you're more likely to be together. Good physical appearance, and this also falls into the category of the matching hypothesis, which suggests that people of similar attractiveness are in relationships with someone of a similar attractive level, right? So you don't generally, quote, date out of your league. You're in the same league. Other things that lead to positive interpersonal attraction are familiarity, and like, are you familiar with them, with their world, with the things in their life? And then proximity of individuals to each other. Like, if you're not anywhere near each other on a regular basis, then of course it's difficult to develop interpersonal attraction. Positive evaluation is something we'll look at now, and positive evaluation is essentially, do you value someone highly? And we like to be positively evaluated. That is the human part of the human condition, is humans like to be positively evaluated. And on top of that, we tend to prefer the company of people who do think highly of us. So if we're surrounded by people who think highly of us, we just tend to gravitate towards those type of people. And oftentimes this leads to then shared opinion, which is a form of social reinforcement, right? Like, if someone likes us for our opinion, if someone praises us for our opinion, or rewards us for our opinion, says that's a good opinion, then we tend to prefer their company. And this is how we end up in certain bubbles, where we're surrounded by people who share similar opinions versus people who tend to have differing opinions. It's just a more comfortable thing for us and place for us to be psychologically. There's also some correlation and similarity amongst other factors like race and age as predictors of interpersonal attraction. People of around the same age and of the same race tend to be more likely to be attracted to each other. And then there's something in psychology called the mirror exposure effects, which suggests, and actually it doesn't just suggest, research shows that just being around people and experiences often leads us to like them more. So we like people and experiences that are familiar to us. We are generally hesitant to try new things. We like things that we know. That's just the mere exposure effect. And so this explains that in advertising why you see repetitious ads for things that everyone kind of knows about. Everybody's familiar with it, but yet they still advertise. And that's because of mere exposure, right? Just as we become more familiar with it, we prefer that to other options. And so that's mere exposure effect. One of the other things to look at is a concept called attribution. And attribution it talks about, psychologically speaking, it's how people assign responsibility for the outcomes in a given situation. And there are basically two categories, internal and external. And internal attribution is also known as dispositional attribution. It's the disposition an individual may have. But it assumes that the cause or the outcome is internal. So the results of some event are internal. I did well on that test because I studied. I got that promotion because I worked hard. And then there's external or situational attribution, which suggests that the cause is environmental, or that there's some other outside conditions that influenced it. So I failed that test because it was unfair, or I didn't get that promotion because John's father is the boss, or whatever it may be. And so it's trying to shift the blame away from who we are and internal causes to external environmental conditions. Within attribution, there are self-serving bias, which sees... So if you suffer from self-serving bias, and we all tend to have this on some level, is when the causes, or when the outcomes of some event are positive, we see the causes as being internal. So if something good happens to us, we think it's because of ourselves. But when the results are negative, we tend to blame it on external factors. We go situational. So if it's good, it's because we did it. If it's bad, it's because the world was conspiring against us somehow. And that's known as the self-serving bias, and that's really important. I think we see that a lot. It accounts for some of the selfishness that we deal with. There's also something called the fundamental attribution error, which we tend to judge the behavior of others, or when we judge the behavior of others. We are likely to overestimate internal attributions and underestimate external attributions, or the role of the situations. So when someone presents a situation about somebody we know, and we are asked to figure out why they got in that situation, we are more likely to say that they are there because of their actions than anything situationally. We overemphasize internal attributions when it doesn't affect us necessarily. And then we see that some attributions affect the outcome of behavior. So some of the internal and external outcomes actually can affect behavior. So there's something called the self-fulfilling prophecy. When person A expects person B to either achieve or fail, person B is likely to do that. And this is sometimes called the Rosenthal effect, and it makes a huge impact in education. If teachers say, oh, I've got these terrible kids, they are going to fail, then yes, oftentimes they fail. But if the teacher expects them to do well, then oftentimes they do well. And this is just the result of kind of expected behavior set upon us, and then our own, we attribute, well, they must be right. And so it's really important because that can have a huge impact. Like if we view, especially in the education world, but if we view every student as actually having a chance to succeed and truly like believe that and mean that, then it's likely that those children will in fact succeed. This goes along with the growth mindset concept, this idea that if we believe we can get better at something, then in fact we are able to actually get better at it. It just requires that openness and that positive attitude. And if we expect something, then we are likely to see that prophecy actually fulfilled. So that's attribution as it rolls in social psychology.